Have you ever felt like your brain is on repeat mode, the same worries, the same urges over and over again? If you've experienced it, you're not alone. But what if I told you that you can break free from that loop? Welcome to today's video on OCD, what it is, why it happens, and how to overcome it. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll have the tools to reclaim your mind and take control of your life. And make sure you stay until the end. I'll be sharing 3 powerful strategies you can use today to ease obsessive thoughts and reduce compulsive behaviors. OCD is more than just being neat and tidy. It's a real mental health condition that affects millions of people worldwide. It's not about liking things to be clean, it's about feeling like you have to do certain things to avoid anxiety. And that's a key difference. Obsessions are intrusive, unwanted thoughts, images, or urges that trigger intense anxiety. Compulsions are the repetitive actions or mental acts that a person feels compelled to perform to ease the anxiety caused by the obsessions. It's like a never-ending cycle that's hard to break, but not impossible. This video will show you how to disrupt that cycle. Here's something most people don't know. OCD doesn't look the same for everyone. It's not all about hand washing. Let's break down the most common subtypes. See if any of these sound familiar. Contamination and cleaning. This isn't just about being clean. It's about feeling that your health or safety is at risk unless you clean. People with this form of OCD might wash their hands until their skin is raw. Harm and checking. This one's common. It's the need to make sure everything is safe. Is the door locked? Is the stove off? And even after checking, you're still not sure. Sound familiar? Symmetry and ordering. This one's all about balance. Everything has to feel just right. Books on a shelf, items on a desk, even the volume on the TV. Intrusive thoughts without visible compulsions. This is a silent form of OCD. The thoughts can be about violence, inappropriate ideas, or fears that feel unbearable. And because there's no visible action, it's often misunderstood. Hoarding. While hoarding is now a separate diagnosis, it's closely related to OCD. The fear of discarding something that might be useful one day is hard to shake off. Okay, so what's causing OCD? It's not as simple as one reason. It's a mix of genetics, brain chemistry, and life experiences. Certain parts of the brain, like the basal ganglia and orbitofrontal cortex, show more activity in people with OCD. This heightened activity is like an alarm system that doesn't shut off. Genetic factors. If OCD runs in your family, your chances of developing it increase. Studies show that genetics play a significant role. Environmental factors. Traumatic events, like losing a loved one, accidents, or childhood trauma, can activate OCD in people who are already at risk. Personality traits. Perfectionists, overthinkers, and people who like to do it right are more likely to develop OCD, since these traits can make obsessive thoughts even more intense. Overcoming OCD isn't easy, but it's absolutely possible with the right approach. Let's break down the key steps that experts recommend to help you regain control of your thoughts and actions. Learn to identify obsessions and compulsions. The first step to overcoming OCD is to recognize the thoughts and behaviors that are part of the cycle. Write down your specific obsessions and compulsions. Are you always checking the stove? Counting steps? Washing hands? The more you understand your triggers, the easier it will be to challenge them. Pro tip: start a trigger tracker journal. Write down each time an obsessive thought happens and what compulsive action you felt compelled to do. Over time, you'll notice patterns and be able to identify your biggest triggers. Exposure and response prevention, or ERP, is one of the most effective ways to treat OCD. Here's how it works. You deliberately expose yourself to the trigger, like touching a doorknob without washing your hands, and you resist the urge to engage in the compulsion. Why it works: ERP teaches your brain that the anxiety caused by the obsession will naturally fade away without performing the compulsion. You retrain your brain to unlearn the false connection between the trigger and the response. Pro tip: start small. If you have a fear of germs, start by touching something that's mildly uncomfortable, like a clean doorknob at home. Slowly build up to bigger challenges. Challenge your thoughts. Your thoughts are not facts. Let me say that again. Your thoughts are not facts. Just because you think something bad will happen doesn't mean it will. Cognitive restructuring helps you challenge irrational beliefs by asking yourself 3 key questions. 1. What's the evidence that this thought is true? 2. What's the evidence against it? 3. If my best friend had this thought, what would I tell them? Pro tip: create a fact versus fiction list. Every time you have an obsessive thought, write it down. Then write the facts and evidence that support it and the evidence that disproves it. You'll often find that the facts don't support the fear. Reduce reassurance seeking. It's tempting to ask others for reassurance. Does my hand look clean? Or are you sure the door is locked? But every time you seek reassurance, you strengthen the OCD cycle. The goal here is to resist asking for reassurance and trust your own judgment. Pro tip: ask yourself, would I trust someone else if they told me it was okay? If the answer is yes, trust yourself the same way. Build self-confidence by answering your own reassurance questions. Practice mindfulness and self-compassion. OCD thrives on self-criticism, but self-compassion is its kryptonite. Practice being kind to yourself. Mindfulness meditation teaches you to notice obsessive thoughts without judgment. When a thought appears, label it, "Oh, there's that intrusive thought again." This small shift makes it easier to let the thought pass instead of grabbing onto it. Pro tip: try a 5-minute mindfulness exercise. Close your eyes, breathe slowly, and notice any thoughts that come to mind. Instead of reacting, just observe them like clouds passing in the sky. Avoid compulsion traps. Sometimes compulsions aren't obvious. You might avoid certain places, change routines, or rely on mental checking. This is called avoidance, and it's just another form of compulsion. Instead of running from discomfort, practice leaning into it. Pro tip: challenge avoidance by taking small steps towards situations that make you uncomfortable. If you usually avoid crowded places, start by spending a few minutes in a less crowded space. Build tolerance step by step. Seek professional help. If you're struggling to overcome OCD on your own, that's okay. It's one of the most challenging mental health conditions, but help is available. Therapy, particularly cognitive behavioral therapy and exposure and response prevention, is highly effective for OCD. Pro tip: if you're not sure where to start, contact a licensed therapist who specializes in OCD. Websites like the International OCD Foundation offer directories for finding trained specialists. Here's the takeaway. OCD is real, it's tough, but it's not unbeatable. The first step is understanding it. The next step? Learning how to take control. If this video hit home for you, tap the like button and subscribe. We're on a mission to bring you real, practical tools for mental well-being. And if you're ready to take control of your mind, you're in the right place. See you in the next video.